Welcome to yet another live episode of Pound for Pound Box Report, episode 458. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, the usual cast of characters: Gail from nyfights.com, Daniel from 4 Boxing News and the Inscriber. And we had him on the show, had this particular special guest on the show a few weeks back. Jay, contributor for Three Kings Boxing. What's going on, everyone?
Hey,
And
what's going on, man?
big news, a lot of talk in the boxing world. We're gonna get to it.
Yeah, including some breaking news that occurred literally just a few minutes, just minutes ago. Excuse me, for those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report live YouTube show, podcast, blog, site, etc., discussing all things boxing. The motto is: when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. The bottom line is: if it concerns the sweet science, it will get discussed. If you want to find out all information about the show, the site is the place to go to. P4pboxingreport.com. Let me repeat that again, P4pboxingreport.com. If you wish to email us, you can do so, P4pboxing at P4pboxingreport.com. On the site, you will find links to check out everything Pound for Pound Box Report, all over social media, links to the Twitter page because I refuse to call it X, links to the Facebook page, YouTube channel, IG page. Um, if you wish to contribute, got to catch me PayPal donation links. Um, let donation be the best nation. As I said last week, shout out to Amma for the $20 dono. And if you wish to contribute, there are some current issues with Cash Me. They've changed their policy. You're restricted in terms of the number of contributions you can give, like per day, per week, per month. So if you wish to contribute, please use it'd be better if you use the Cash Me, the PayPal donation, because there's some new rules when it comes to Cash Me. So we'd be better off to use the PayPal donation link. And last but certainly not least, if you want to get your body right, we're getting ready to head into the fall, which means Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, getting ready for the holiday season. It'll hit you soon before you know it. If you want to get your body right so you don't put on too many pounds during that type of year, during the last quarter of the year, please check out the link to Body, BODI, formerly known as Beachbody On Demand. Um, Body fitness programs for any and all suitable interests and goals. If you're looking for a boxing specific program on Body, please check out 10 Rounds. That is a 6-week program, 3 days a week of boxing based cardio, 2 days a week of weightlifting. At the very least, please take advantage of the 14-day trial, the free 14-day trial. And that is for 14 days, you get free access to any and all programs on Body. Let's get recap what happened this past weekend. We all know the big fight in Vegas, the return of Canelo Alvarez fighting Edgar Berlanga. Always begin the show and end the show with ladies first. I'll go to you, Gail. Um, I was expecting for Canelo to end this fight rather quickly, inside 6 rounds. Didn't turn out that way. Canelo put him down, I want to say, in round 3 with a terrific counter left hook. But I got to give uh, Berlanga some credit. Didn't really get hurt that bad. The rest of the fight was semi-competitive, but in the end, it was all Canelo who won by unanimous decision. Uh, Couple of factors here, a couple points here I want to make after in terms of the aftermath. You've heard word from the camp of Canelo that he wants a rematch with Bivol. I'm adamant against that. I still want to see him fight uh, Benavidez. I just don't think, because one, Benavidez, he's more deserving at this point, and two, I don't think Canelo can beat Bivol. If they fight 10 times, Canelo may be able to beat him once. Uh, so point about the fight, a point about the what transpired afterwards, and a word or two about the performance of Berlanga, who to a lot of folks, quote unquote, exceeded expectations.
I don't think there's any quote unquote about it. Berlanga exceeded expectations. Sometimes a young fighter's stock goes up, even in a loss, depending on how he handles himself. And was Berlanga competitive? No. Did he win a round? Well, he did on the judges' scorecards in Las Vegas. He didn't win a round on any of mine. was a 12-0 fight. Nevertheless, he made it to the final bell. He didn't get seriously hurt at all. In fact, that knockdown didn't hurt him. It popped him right on his butt, and he was pissed about the mistake. He knew the mistake he'd made, getting caught and dropping his right hand the way he did. And his corner told him not to. He even said so after the fight. He smacked his gloves together. He was so bad. Exactly the same thing that Sean Porter did when Terrence Crawford first dropped him in their fight. He was mad at himself. It reminded me of exactly the same thing. Nevertheless, he hung in there. He came forward. He gave it his absolute best. He was going to go out on his shield. If Canelo hit him again, so be it. He was in the fight. Not competitively in the fight. No, make no mistake there. But he really did give his best effort. Even in a loss, he looked better in a lot of ways than in all those wins that came before it. And for a fighter like Berlanga, it won't hurt him long term. It's early in his career, relatively speaking. He's still young. And he will learn things that he can't learn any other way. Not from sparring, not from training, not from fighting lesser opponents. In very much the same way that Canelo learned from his loss to Mayweather. Mayweather schooled him, and he never forgot a single thing that happened in that fight, and I have a feeling Berlanga will be the same, especially because after the fight, he was incredibly humble about it. He and Canelo had a very heartfelt conversation. Canelo encouraged him to keep going. You know, he sort of plays the older brother, elder statesman sometimes. It gives me a laugh. But, you know, credit to Berlanga. He talked it up. He made it entertaining. You know, he and Canelo had some words during the fight. He gave the fans a show in the ways that he could. I'm not going to mind seeing him again. And there are some very intriguing matchups we can talk about down the road here, suddenly for Berlanga, that are in play that I would watch. Canelo was proficient. His footwork, his speed, his timing, his defense, which he doesn't get a lot of credit for, he evaded most of Berlanga's best punches coming at him. He would land his shots, hit him to the body, land an uppercut, add the hooks in combination, and just as Berlanga was coming back, he was nowhere to be found. So I don't think Canelo's skills have slipped at all. I think part of it is a function of being at super middleweight, although he did stop Caleb Plant, but you know, he doesn't need to put himself at tremendous risk just to get the stoppage. He made his point. He battered Berlanga around for 12 rounds, and sometimes that's honestly harder on your opponent than just putting them out of their misery.
I'll go to you, Jay, and then you can follow up, Daniel. To Gail's earlier point about the trash talking, there was a couple of moments where I thought that Berlanga, who, let's face it, when he is in the midst of pressure, sometimes he will mentally crack, as evidenced by the fight in which he bit an opponent, excuse me, and was reprimanded afterwards. He threw a headbutt in there and some other extracurriculars, but he maintained his composure at least into the final bell of this fight. Your thoughts on that and the state of Canelo after this fight? For me, Jay, coming into it, I felt that Canelo had slipped a bit. He's, in my opinion, and I still feel that way, he's not the fighter that he once was. Put it this way, the Canelo that we saw in the first two fights with Triple G, Daniel Jacobs, I don't see that Canelo right now. So your thoughts on Canelo, your thoughts on Benavidez in the aftermath of what transpired this past weekend?
Honestly, as far as Canelo, I agree 100%. Canelo's not the That hunger is no longer there. That's why he doesn't want to be challenged in any form or facet. Um, this whole Berlanga thing should have never happened, especially with him. I don't even think he beat anybody in the top 10 in that division. I think the highest was like what 12 or 13. I think was the rating. But I think Canelo is trying to maximize his his legacy without really hurting it. He's really just trying to like maximize the money that he gets. For right now, I think he probably will fight for another maybe 2 years. It may be sooner. I mean, it may be less than that, depending on how boxing goes. But right now, I just think that Canelo's really on cruise control. I mean, I don't know how many excuses he can give you know, to this whole thing of not wanting to fight Benavidez. He literally spoke on the additional 20 to 25 pounds that he's going to come with. But I think Berlanga came in at like 180, 190, something like that. From what I was hearing, I'm not sure how factual that is, but I did hear that he did come in pretty heavy for that fight. As far as Berlanga, uh, I mean, yes, we can give him participation points. That's literally what I'm giving Berlanga's participation points. Yeah, he could have been rattled when he got dropped. It was a flash knockdown. He knew he messed up. Uh, but I mean, there was nothing about this fight that was really entertaining. This was at the level of an exhibition match for Canelo. That's how I really perceive this as. Canelo at no point in time there was no urgency. I really felt like Canelo really just carried Berlanga. He could have literally went in there and destroyed him. As we've seen, like he baited him into that third round. I think it was the third round he knocked him down
Yeah.
because he threw that jab and then he came around. He fainted and then came around and clocked him pretty good. So I just think that this was just this is an exhibition like intent. It was like an expedition intense type of thing. It was really no energy to it. It
It's
was
like, in other words, Canelo just basically fought at one gear. He could have stepped it up if he really wanted to.
exactly. He could at any point in time. I felt like his IQ and his power alone with the timing would literally take him out quick, pretty easily. It was evident. It literally just felt like a exhibition match, or you can even say a sparring match because I don't really know what Canelo would have worked on. You know what I mean? Against Berlanga that he doesn't already know right now. So I mean, I don't think he's gonna go up and fight Bivol. I think he's probably gonna take on maybe Skull. I don't know. What's the other one? There's the other guy. Uh, what's the other one? The
Uh,
other
um,
mandatory.
um,
He just
oh, I
fought
know
not
who
too
you're
long.
talking. Yeah, I know who
The
you're talking
British.
about. He's fighting
Is he
out of
British or
Canada
Canadian?
right now.
Yeah, Canadian. Yeah, he's Canadian. So he has those two choices most likely. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't think he's gonna fight Benavidez. Not unless he gets offered some crazy amount. But Terrence Crawford, he does not seem interested in fighting. Um, so at this point, I don't know what Canelo plan is going to be. But it really just seems like he's just in cruise control until he decides to ride off in the sun. And I think he'll just continue to give his fans and the boxing community pretty much mediocre fights, not nothing to like rant and rave or anything like that. So yeah, I think at this point Canelo's just like whatever about it.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
First, let's be blunt. This is a fight that should not have happened
Hmm.
at all. Berlanga did not leave any merit whatsoever to get this fight other than being Puerto Rican. That's the only qualification that he had. And unfortunately, Canelo, yeah, I think after the third round and after some little unsportsmanlike conduct on the part of Berlanga in a couple later rounds, I think Canelo decided at that point, I shouldn't knock you out. I'm going to teach you a lesson in professionalism. You do a couple of dirty things, I'm going to do a couple of dirty things. But at least when I do it, it's a reaction. Because I think it was the fourth or fifth round where Berlanga may have tried a headbutt, and later on Canelo pinned Berlanga down and essentially kind of threw some kidney shots at him as a bit of retaliation. But overall, you could tell that Canelo could have taken up Berlanga if he wanted to. He didn't want to. He wanted to teach the kid a lesson. And it's a lesson that that Berlanga has to learn if he's actually going to take this seriously. Because I think I mentioned it last week in the preview. Top Rank really did over baby him a little bit too much in their matchmaking, their handling. And that caused a stagnation in growth and skill. In fact, he regressed a bit. And the matchroom pairing hasn't done him that much favor in trying to build that back up. As far as when it comes to Canelo's future, that's going to be interesting because I could probably see him take. I think it's Mabili. I keep.
Christian Mabili. That's right.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, he'll probably be able to try to take him because as hungry as that kid is, and as much power as that kid has, there's some gaps in offense and defense that Canelo can exploit.
In short, what Daniel's trying to say here, as good as he is offensively, he may be that weak on the defensive end.
Yeah, in that end. There's in that front. And I think his pride wants him to take the Bivol rematch more than anything. Because it wasn't the fact that he lost, just the way that he lost. It was basically he was getting schooled. It was like Floyd all over again, except for the fact that with Floyd, you kind of expected it at that point. I don't think he'll get that. Not with the current machinations that we're going to talk about later. But Mabili's probably going to be the best shot to do it, to stay in the division, defend the belts, but probably remain on cruise control for a little bit because at this point of his career, there's only one fight we want to see. And it's probably the fight that we're not going to see until it gets to a main pack level of anticipation and apathy. Because as much as we wanted Maypac when we got it, we kind of all figured it was 2 or 3 years too late, and the fight itself showed that. We don't know it's going to be the case if when Canelo fights Benavidez, but I don't think he's not going to fight him anytime soon. It could literally be probably his last or second to last fight. For Berlanga, he really needs to take a lot of the lessons that he said, because Canelo pretty much tried to talk to him like a teacher or a trainer afterwards in the post-fight interview on the things he needed to do. He needs to listen to that if he wants to be considered a serious player in this division, because he has the frame, he has the body frame of super middleweight, possibly light heavyweight, and there was enough skills in his early fights where you could see potential for growth. He needs to do that again. He needs to find that again, because if he doesn't, it's just a situation where Eddie only grabs you for one fight, and then he's going to discard you to the land of misfit toys.
On the undercard, and I'm going to split these fights up because It was a lot of fights on the undercard. I'll go back to you on this one, Jay. Okay, Erislandy Lara fought Danny Garcia. He got the win, ninth round stoppage. That's about all I can say about it because listen, um, Garcia, let's face it, he wasn't a middleweight.
No,
Everybody knows it. He's not even a junior middleweight, as far as I'm concerned.
that
Uh,
fight couldn't happen anyway. Just the
right,
style matchup. Danny's too
right.
flat footed. Like even if this happened like years prior when Danny was like if they met, the style matchup would just be horrible because Danny is too flat footed to keep up with Lara in the first place. So I don't even know why they threw him in the match.
And Laura didn't necessarily dress himself in glory either because he
No,
looked, yeah, he got the win and he pretty much had control, but that doesn't mean he's a top shelf fighter at this point. He looked every bit of his 41
he
plus,
did.
because he's Cuban, 41 plus years, right?
Mhm.
From the ball spot on the top of his head to how he fought that night looked slow as far as I was concerned. Um, he's way past his prime. I got absolutely nothing from this. Absolutely nothing.
I didn't get it. It just felt like two over the hill fighters fighting, and the matchup just I mean the style matchup just won. That's all. That's really what it was. Uh, yeah, I just don't see it. A lot of people. I'm seeing a lot of casual fans talk about, "Oh, Laura is so great," and you know what I mean. And they even got people saying like, he would beat Bud up. So it's the
He
win
wouldn't
did
beat
something
Bud.
for his career. I think in
He
the
wouldn't
casual.
beat Bud at this point. He wouldn't
No,
beat
he would
Bud. He
no, he
wouldn't beat
wouldn't.
Jonabek. He wouldn't
No,
beat Adamas. No, 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 no. Stop it.
no. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it did something. It did something for Laura's career. Danny Garcia, he should have just retired as soon as he walked out the, what I mean, out those ropes because it was hard to see. It was hard to see both of them, but it was just hard to see like Danny Garcia just he just he just looked so slow, so like the reflexes to everything was just off. It was just yeah, it's just time for him to just pack it in. It didn't seem like he had the any fire, anything. It just seemed like he was just there. So I just think he just needs to take that check, just retire at this point.
Yeah, yeah. Have a come to Jesus meeting with yourselves, and I'm
Hmm.
talking about both fighters here,
Yeah.
especially Garcia since he was on the losing end, and in terms of Lara, because I think he's when it comes to I guess elite level, quote unquote, at 160, which is a weak division right now. I don't
Mhm.
know what his real future is. Um, they may uh, put him in position to get a couple of wins just in favor. But if he steps up to fight the best of what is a weak division, I think he will lose. I'll go to you, Daniel, to talk about Caleb Plant. Kind of what turned into a grudge match against Trevor McCumby. Uh, Plant went by stoppage. He had pretty much had control of this fight, as far as I was concerned. The thing that I was a little bit was somewhat impressed with Plant coming in. I've always felt that Caleb Plant, one of his weaknesses was a lack of a real inside fighting game, but he showed some inside fighting skills, maybe against an inferior opponent. But the fact that he was able to stay in there, land with the body, and the ability to finish, he did that in this fight, and he a little bit of a revitalization. Um, uh, you want to call it, if you want to call it, a second consecutive, a back-to-back impressive wins outside of Canelo, outside of Benavidez. He's right in there, Plant at 168.
The thing with the main thing with Plant, and it showed in the Canelo fight, and it showed us this one. It shows overall like how he carries himself. You don't want to piss him off because he'll carry that emotion for good and ill into the fight, which is what happened here. He wanted to be McCullough like he owed the man money. And he did, for the most part, just maintaining control and doing that inside work, which has always been missing from his repertoire until recently. And this fight, luckily, has positioned him in a way to, if and when Canelo does retire, to be able to take a little bit of chip from that division back. Or, worst case is, if he wants to do 175, he's at least more confident in doing it, even though I would think that would be a little bit of a mistake, as 175 it's Benavidez' playground right now still. Not to mention also Berturbia and Bivol. So it was a good showing. It does show that 168 does have still some good caliber fighters. And overall, if we're talking about Canelo having a few extra years, you can see a rematch with Plant, depending on how the situation falls in. You can see a rematch happening, not anytime soon, probably in the next year and a half if he continues this route, but he's been put himself back in that little bit of a conversation.
The last time, Gail, we saw Romero, excuse me, he got dog walked by Isaac Cruz, right? Um, Lost the WBA belt at 140 in the process. Made his return to the ring with a decision win over Manuel Jaimes. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. Um, to me, this was about Romero regaining some confidence um, following the defeat against Pitbull. Did Romero look sensational in this fight? No, but was he pretty much in control? Yeah. Building blocks you have to have for Rolly at this point, and this was the first step in what he hopes is building up to what he hopes to be returned to world level and possibly fighting for and winning another world title.
I see what you did there about the dog walk against Pitbull Cruz. Very, very nice. You know, we have a saying in the disaster preparedness business that hope is not a strategy. Raleigh, hope is not a strategy, son. He was put in front of an opponent who had a very respectable looking record on paper.
I was trying to be nice, Gail. I was trying to be nice.
You know, and hey, everybody's got a chance. And Manuel James's not a stable mate, but another guy out of the Northern California scene, Vladimir Hernandez, had a wild, great upset win on Wednesday on the Pro Box card. So we were thinking, is NorCal going to come through here? No, it didn't. You know, he did what he was there to do, which was provide, you know, some opposition to Romero. But I think that we have seen Raleigh maximize what skills he's got.
Like I said, I was trying to be nice.
What makes Romero a player still is his ability to sell a fight. He's interesting outside the ring. He's got a following. You know, you either love him or hate him. Nobody's lukewarm about him. And that is a skill that can keep getting you fights, right? Raleigh loves playing the heel. He's great at it. So he'll continue to get fights. What's his ceiling? I think we've seen his ceiling. But, you know, he can still make money. I don't hate him for it. You know, there are roles for guys like that. And, you know, he'll get at least another handful of fights before everybody says, yeah, we got to see this show before.
Last card, and I'll go right back to you, Jay, is the return of Kubo Stephen Fulton. Last time we saw him, July of last year, he went over into Japan and fought Naoya Inoue, and the monster had his way with him before stopping him in 8. Fulton made the decision to go up to featherweight, fought a guy by the name of Carlos Castro, and coming in, a lot of people expected Fulton. I ain't gonna say to pretty much have his way. Well, I'll say it to pretty much have his way, but it didn't necessarily turn out to be. Uh,
Nope.
Fulton got the win, but he had plenty of trouble with this dude. Got dropped in the fifth round, and afterwards, more than a few folks felt that he lost Fulton. Fulton got the win, but there are a lot more questions about Fulton in the aftermath of this. Where does Fulton stand? Did the fight with Inoue shake his confidence, shake everything about him for good?
Um, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. It's definitely this last fight. I don't want to say that. I would say more. It was ring rest. I think him being he wasn't active enough. His reflexes weren't there. Timing wasn't there. Everything that a fighter experiences when when they're not in the ring consistently, he literally showed in this last fight. Like he could not like he couldn't time. I mean, he there were certain points in the fight where you would think that he was getting it together, but like every time that he would adjust or you would think he would find something, he's trying to figure out something else, and it was a battle of back and forth, and it really shouldn't because Fulton is the better boxer. So I mean, that question mark of did that loss to anyway affect him going into this fight? It remains to be seen. I think if he gets in the ring, within the next, I don't know, within the next 6 months, depending on his opponent, how he does in that fight, I think that question would be answered. Because if he's still pulling this level of fighting that he showed this past weekend, yeah, then I would start to say I would say yes. That fight definitely did something to him. Um, yeah, and it's something that he's gonna have to figure that out.
Yeah, let's you don't want to be too harsh, too critical of him, because as Jay noted, this is his first fight, a year, almost 15-month layoff, um, and he is moving up the division. Um, ring rust could very well have been the case. So you want to give him some time here. But if he doesn't show some improvement in the next fight or the next fight or the next fight, there will definitely be questions raised about one cool boy Steph. Let's move
Hmm.
on to some news. Let's move on to some news here. And as Gail teased earlier, breaking news literally before we hit the live button regarding Turkey Alex Sheik and one of what has been the institutions from a media perspective of the sport, and that is One Ring Magazine. We've been hearing word about this for a while now, and I go back to you, Gail, and you can continue on the conversation here, Jay and Daniel, and that is Turkey Alex Sheik, who has made a big imprint in the sport over the last few years. Turns out he has now bought Ring Magazine, and there's been a domino effect in terms of the media class in the sport. If you don't mind, Gail, give some more details of what's been transpiring really over the last few weeks and was been confirmed today.
Well, confirmed is still unofficially confirmed, but back channel chattering is that Turkey Al Sheikh, who is controlling the money from the Saudi General Entertainment Authority, this is the government entity of the royal family investing in sports, entertainment, other activities in the Western world to improve the brand and reputation of the Saudi nation, to drive investment, tourism, people buying second homes, especially in the UK and European markets. So the word is that Al Sheikh is part of an investor group who has purchased Ring Magazine. And the group, the investor group also reportedly includes Rick Reno, the former editor of Boxing Scene. As you might know, Boxing Scene was bought out by the controlling interests who own ProBox. So they now run Boxing Scene, and Reno left when that sale went through. Apparently, Reno is part of this investor group that has purchased Ring Magazine from its current owner, which is Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions.
Same De La Hoya, who's recently made a deal with Turkey Al Sheep.
Yep. So we have an upcoming and first co-promotion with Golden Boy and Riyadh Season, Saudis, for a Latino night type of fight, headed up in a cruiserweight fight featuring Zurdo Ramirez, and his opponent escapes me. Not a bad fight, actually.
I think is it the unification bout, the rumor unification bout with William Smith?
Yeah, yes. There we go. Which is actually a great fight. Absolutely a great fight. There is some grumbling, especially here on the West Coast, that normally that fight would have taken place here in California or in Las Vegas, but it is going to take place in Riyadh. So, it denies the fans the opportunity to see this fight in person, but it will, in theory, headline a card that was to include some of the other key players on the Golden Boy roster. We'll see what happens with the final lineup. In any event, because of that thawing relationship, I guess it isn't a horrible surprise that they made this deal. It is troubling, though. It is very troubling. Ring Magazine is the oldest standing boxing journalist publication that there is, right? And Ring Magazine is in a unique position in that they have always conferred a Ring Magazine title, which, because its rules are so rigid, they have never bent the rules. In fact, there was a lot of controversy when the Ring Magazine committee would not bend the rules for the Bam Rodriguez-Sonny Edward fights. But, they stick to it. You do not qualify for a Ring Magazine belt unless it is a fight between two fighters in the top. It has to be the number one ranked fighter and the second ranked fighter. The third ranked fighter can be qualified under very limited circumstances. Sonny Edwards was number 4 and they would not budge. So no fighter pays a sanctioning fee for the ring belt at all. And it's got over 100 years of legacy. Fighters truly prize that Ring Magazine belt. What's going to happen when somebody who controls the purse strings, who likes certain fighters and doesn't like other fighters, controls who gets that belt or not? Are they going to stick to the rankings and the rules for competing for that belt that have held firm for over a century? I wouldn't bet my money on it.
And furthermore, if a fighter has to fight for that Ring Magazine belt, would Turkey make them pay a kind of what is an amount is a sanctioning fee?
I'm not sure I know what you mean by that. I mean, you have to do business with him, but there has never been the same percentage fee of your purse paid to a sanctioner.
What I mean by that is he can try to place the Ring Magazine belt in the same level as BF, BA, BC, right? And since he controls things, if say fighter, particularly a prominent fighter, wants to fight for that, okay, you can do it, but it's going to be on my rules, and you pay a certain amount of money to fight for said.
Well, that would be a sea change, because there has never, ever been a sanctioning fee for the ring belt, ever. So that's part of the question.
But since he now controls things, he can
right,
do
he
it.
can do whatever he wants.
With it.
That's right, because money talks. That's been the issue for many of us with him. There's also the issue of the irony, and for a lot of us, the outrage over the Saudi General Entertainment Authority owning the most important name in boxing journalism by a regime that controls its journalists, that jails journalists, and kills journalists, who censors journalists, and many of them are speaking out this week as we have a Riyadh season sponsored and promoted fight at Wembley Stadium in London. And certain media outlets who have expressed criticisms are being denied credentials. And this is the start of it. Every boxing fan should be terribly concerned about this. All of us who are concerned about legitimate, responsible journalism, and hey, in the current universe, with a lot of people chasing clicks and getting monetized on their YouTube and TikTok channels, I get it. The concept of there being ethical journalism, as it's been practiced for a long time before the digital age, is becoming, sort of an old-fashioned thing. I get it. I still follow it. I call out things as I see them. I source my information. I don't hide behind rumors. I don't report rumors as fact. I don't report unnamed sources. So be it. Does that mean I'm never going to get a credential? I don't care. I won't compromise my morals. Here's the difference. I do not count on boxing journalism to pay my bills. And I understand there are a lot of people who do. So they have a very tough call to make. How much do they decide to compromise? And we're going to see. Meanwhile, you have fighters who have chosen not to do business, and some of them have chosen not to do business with Riyadh season in a very visible, vocal way. Canelo Alvarez is one of them. Tim Tszú's another. And Inoue is another. Tank's another.
As well.
I deeply respect them having the balls to stand up to him. Now, a lot of them have FU money, right? So it makes it easier. And it is prize fighting. So I don't blame the fighters necessarily for taking a fight. It is a hard sport. It is dangerous. And if a payday's available, God bless you, man. Take it. Don't let it compromise you. But if you want to get that money, get that bag and spend it, by all means, I'm okay with that. But if you are in the position of someone like Canelo and Tank and Munguia, who can dictate terms, who say, no, thank you. And Turkey, talk shit about him. He recently said about Canelo, I will eat him. What does that mean? Well, I guess we're going to find out. Yeah, Canelo doesn't need him. And it benefits Canelo not one bit to place his fights in Saudi Arabia where his fans can't attend. His fans sold out T-Mobile Arena. Even with the big UFC event in town, across the road, literally. And I get it. There isn't a tremendous interplay between boxing fans and UFC fans. But with the Sphere's debut in combat sports added, I know a lot of our boxing combat sports journalism friends had to make the call. Which do I cover? And they covered the UFC event. Nevertheless, Canelo still sold out. His fans still showed up. They still had a great time. It's their weekend. He does not need, and he shouldn't go to Saudi Arabia to do that. And there's where we also have a problem. Yeah, I get it. Lion's share of fans, they don't know where fights happen because they're watching from home. But the only way you develop a devoted fan base is giving fans a chance to go see boxing in person. That's particularly true in the Western United States, where Mexican and Mexican-American fighters still dominate. Once you have been to a fight, whether it's a club fight a good regional card or a championship fight, you are hooked. There's nothing like it in sports. Nothing. Denying fans the opportunity to do that denies developing the fan base and the growth of the sport. Sure, short term, the Saudis get their big bounce from it. Bear in mind, and I'll stop my rant here, but bear in mind that the Saudis do not have to make a profit like a normal business, like all the other promoters. All the other promoters have to make money to be able to pay their overhead, pay their staff, pay the fighters, make a little profit, keep going. The Saudis are in the business as a promotional and marketing tool, and they don't need to make a profit. They have petrodollars to burn. They'll burn them until they see the public opinion softening towards them, when they see the kind of investment they're looking for, the kind of tourism growth they're looking for. And once they get that sort of return, they'll be done with boxing. And the entire superstructure will collapse. Will it be 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Who knows? Who knows?
Jay, Daniel, there's a lot to unpack here. And the dominoes could be, for lack of better words, the fallout, let me put it that way, could be very, very significant. So while on the surface, this may be a small move, Jay, and you can follow up, Daniel, the impact could be very, very large.
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely be detrimental to boxing, especially when you talk about money. Like we in Three Kings already discussed. These fighters are making way too much money. That's why, and the fans are literally, they have their platform. It's just these fighters, if they take a loss, they take a hit, and that's why we don't see fighters fight like they used to back in back in the day. I just believe that it may come to a head at some point in some point in time. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping this is him being nice and while trying to make a profit and trying to create more tourism to his country. I just hope it's not like, this is not one of those honeymoon type things where he's rich and he has the power to actually get what he wants, and once he's kind of collected it, it's just kind of, man, I'm done with it type of situation. I mean, though, like on the flip side of the coin, we may see the fights that we want to see, that the fans want to see for that brief moment, but so if it's to the detriment of boxing and the boxing structure, I don't know. I don't think it's worth it at all, to be honest. Short
term versus long term, and
exactly
talking about here.
But it's hard to say what the long term may be. I mean, you can. It's one thing to hope, and then the facts come out completely different. I mean, we will probably see it. How he moves, going forward. I think is very important. Like, what rules is he going to just change, for certain individual fighters? Well, you have to look at the consistency of, or how consistent that individual person is, or how consistent he is going to be.
And if you don't mind me interrupting, the problem is that he's doing this with Ring. Let's just put it out there. There's rumblings that he's already influencing the sanctioning bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
I.e., paying money to them, influencing them on the financial side. So that speaks to your point, not just short term, long term, but
Hmm.
also about what is his true interest here. Is he
Hmm.
acting in good faith? You don't know yet.
No, you just have to look at what he does. I mean, yeah, paying for influence. I mean, what there's signs that there's influence. Canelo's one of the banners of influence. I mean, it's always been in boxing. There's always been that sway. You know what I mean, for certain fighters. That's always been there throughout history. You know what I mean. So I mean, it's just going to be hard to. It's just going to be hard to see his true intent. We just have to sit and wait and hope for the best. Truth be told, we just have to kind of just hold his feet to the fire. I mean, that's all we can do at this point in time. I mean, he's creating some of the fights that fans seem to want to see. So, um, yeah, I mean, all we can do is hope his intent is pure.
Indeed, I go to you, Daniel. If you don't mind finishing off this conversation. I mean, this topic. Excuse me.
Ooh. First, I'll say the phrase that Gail missed in the area because I know what she wanted to say. First, when this news break out, and just the way that the blood money mark, I never really fully said his name because I don't think I don't have the respect for him to say his name. His To me, he is the blood money mark. But what you're doing, what the Saudi government has been doing, Project 2030, is what's called sports washing. And basically, this is just a means to make you forget that 15 of the 19 9/11 hijackers were Saudis, or make you forget that they make women citizens now disappear for daring to actually drive, or publicly execute members of the LGBT community, or the fact that they basically chopped up one of their citizens in one of their embassies for daring to criticize the government. That's who's backing the blood money mark. Let's leave it blunt there, first of all. And what this does in this vacuum is a really negative and devastating blow. The Ring magazine belt has, because of the fact that that committee has not bent the rules, they've been rigid about who they put that belt on. In many ways, has become the physical manifestation of the lineal championship in each division. Normally, if you're holding the Ring magazine belt, you're probably considered the lineal champion. The fact that now the blood money mark owns this, and we've already seen some of the influence. Thomas Hauser actually has a really good article. Granted, the details are buried under the coverage of the Canelo fight, detailing how much the blood money mark has become more authoritarian when it comes to his demands, and when it comes to some of the ways he's been blocking access or trying to parlay access to the sport. Now, this is nothing new when it comes to boxing. There has always been a group or individuals who have always tried to monopolize the sport in many ways. Whether it was the mafia, or in the later years where we've seen Don King, Bob, Oscar, Eddie Hearn, Al Heyman. We've all seen different promoters try to monopolize the sport, and each have failed. This is the first time where we're trying to see a foreign government trying to monopolize the sport. And they've bought some goodwill in making some of the fights into it. But like I fully applaud people like Canelo and Tank, who pretty much told the blood money mark where to shove the blood money at. Because that's what needs to be done. No, I agree. I agree with Gail the fact that if you're in the position where if it advances your career, where it's the only way like you could get a title shot, then that's the issue at hand. But we as a public should not be fooled into forgetting what is behind this money. Because but then when you realize what's behind this money, it is a bad taste in your mouth. And to finish, when it comes to in the whole aspect of the Ring magazine, in many ways, the rankings have become can become essentially worthless at this point. Now, there was a lot of scrutiny when Golden Boy owned Ring magazine, but we never heard about Golden Boy leaning real hard on that board on the magazine to favor Golden Boy fighters over other people. You may see now something different now with the way the Blood Money Mark has behaved and the way he's behaving. So we have to keep an eye on that, and hopefully it becomes a situation where the sport can rally enough where the Saudis can see that they cannot buy this fully and they cannot win this crowd over, and maybe they'll leave it alone. Does that mean we may get less fights than what we want? Yes. But it also means that we'll regain a lot of the integrity that the sport loses with a move like this.
Interesting developments, for sure. Where this leads, you just don't know. I think to Jay's point, I agree 100%. You hope that everything is on the up and up, but uh, we will see how this all ultimately uh, plays off. What is ultimately heads, and where boxing will stand at the end of this. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that, because there's such an unknown unknown factor to all of this. Let's move on to talk about some fights this weekend. I kind of limited the schedule because I don't want to have this episode go too long. So I limited to just 3 fights in terms of the previews. I'll go back to you on this one, Daniel. On this coming Friday, on I believe ESPN, either ESPN or ESPN Plus, the return of Jaime Munguia. Munguia, of course, last time out, lost a decision to Canelo this past May. Returning to the ring, fighting Bazinyan, and Munguia gave a decent account of himself against Canelo. Um, him and Golden Boy seems to be at odds. Munguia has moved on. Gail talked about how it is her hope. She thinks that Berlanga will learn from his loss to Canelo this past weekend. Do you think we will see a Munguia who has who will show significant improvement, learn from that loss to Canelo, and we will see some of that improvement and maybe some changes in his style and his approach in the upcoming fight later on this week?
Yes, this is his first fight under top rank. I don't know. I don't fully know if Zanfer is still involved in this deal. My guess is probably that they are still. But yes, this is the first showcase to show what you have learned after taking that type of loss, which it wasn't a schooling, it wasn't a drubbing. Munguia gave a good account of himself against Canelo.
Yeah.
But he also had to show that a lot of the criticisms that we've thrown over his last previous fights, which are mainly his lack of defense, should be addressed, especially in this era that we talked about, you mentioned with Berlanga, we need to see a very good improvement on defense from Munguia because they're gonna prepare him just like Eddie. If he sticks with Berlanga, they're gonna prepare him to be the person that is the heir to Canelo in the division. So, and luckily he's young enough to have learned enough from it, and he has a decent training team around him. He does seem, I think he still listens a little bit to Erik Morales, who had to step away for his political career. But I think this is going to be a good showing for Munguia, show a little bit more versatility, particularly on the defensive side, and try to position himself for if Canelo winds up letting more belts go to get one of those championships back and position himself as being one of the pillars in the division, which he does have a chance to be.
Indeed, I believe Munguia is ranked top 5 across the board too by the BC. A win here could set up a possible fight with Skull for the vacant IBF. Should they move Munguia up the rankings, or if Canelo decides to vacate the WBO. No. Pacheco's number 1, and I don't see him going back to fight Pacheco on the zone. So it'll be interesting if he wins, what Top Rank decides to do with him. Again, that fight is going to be on Friday on ESPN. I believe that fight is going to take place in Glendale, Arizona. I go to you, Jay. We'll talk about Joshua and Dubois in a second, but on the undercard, Anthony Cacace, who I like to call the old man, coming off of a surprising stoppage win over Joe Cordina to claim the IBF belt at 130 pounds, fighting two-time featherweight champion Josh Warrington. Right, last time we saw Warrington stop by Lee Wood, a fight that Warrington was winning at the time that he got stopped. I don't know how to judge this fight, Jay. Cacace, was that a one-off, that fight against Cordina? I don't think Warrington, I never thought he was all that he was cracked up to be. He seems to be on the decline, but because I'm not that impressed with Cacace either, I could see a scenario where Warrington, if he has some confidence left, right? All the demons in his head, not from the Cordina loss, but the Mauricio Lara fight, where he got pummeled, right, in a non-title bout. I never thought he'd recover from that. But if he can summon up anything, I could see a scenario where Warrington could pull off the win here against the elder statesman of the 130-pound division. That's for you, Jay.
Yeah, so for this fight, honestly, between Munguia and Warrington, they both need to show that they can learn from their losses. That's literally what this is about. If Warrington has his confidence and he is flowing, I think he can win. He does. He has these lapses. I don't know why, but he has these lapses where he makes mistakes, and he's paid for them back to back fights. So if he can literally just get in there, do what he does the best he can, and just continue and just take advantage of the openings that Cacace gives you. If you create angles and play defense, and counter him and time him, I think that like he shouldn't have too much of an issue. But then again, like the question mark is his confidence, and will he actually have a lapse that literally would take full advantage of and got him out of there. But I do like Cacace. No, he's rugged. So
Yeah, he
it's
got a
gonna be
big punch.
Yeah, and he has a good he has that punch that can change the fight. So like I'm leaning towards I'm leaning towards I'm leaning towards Cacace just slightly, only because Warrington has yeah, he's just I don't know if his confidence is there. Like he literally that majority that loss to Lopez, and then he goes and fights Wood and gets stopped. So like I don't that's even worse than the loss to Lopez because he got stopped. So I don't know if his mental game is there, but if it is there, I can see him pulling this out though. But for right now, I'm slightly giving it to the old man.
That as I mentioned, that fight between Kakachi and Warrington is going to be on the undercard of at least in the UK, among UK circles, a highly anticipated fight between Daniel Dubois and Anthony Joshua for IBF belt. I believe it's held by Dubois. Yeah, I believe it is held by Dubois. Excuse me. I go to you, Gail. Get the conversation started off. Dubois coming off of the win against Hergovich. The win that was preceded by the stoppage win over Big Baby, riding an all-time wave of confidence, and that's something you can never count out. A fighter who's confident, who has self-belief, is dangerous, but he's in there against Joshua, who was deflated mentally more than anything following the rematch loss to Usyk in summer 2022. He has rebounded mentally and is riding a wave of confidence in his own right. Right. So there's history between the two, going back to when they were younger, and the two have sparred. A little bit of beef in the lead up, particularly when it came to the introductory press conferences and the interviews between both men. Um, to me, the guy with the who can take the punch, whoever can take the punch of the other guy, I think can win on balance. Joshua is the better boxer, the better jab. But like I said, Dubois, um, he's motivated and he thinks that he can walk through AJ. Do you think he can, Gil?
I'm intrigued by this fight. You know, both of these men have taken career paths that were unexpected, you know, not always in positive ways, but, you know, it is said that you either win or you learn. What did these guys learn from their losses? Yes, Dubois lost to Usyk, but he had moments, and he did drop Usyk, admittedly a low blow, but he got to him. He got to him, and he knows he did. Pardon my dog, who's warning off the coyotes behind the house right now.
Yeah, don't be alarmed, Jay, if you're hearing that in the background. Gail's dog's in the background.
Yeah, I'm sitting a open space behind me, and my dog protects the property. So what can I say? Yeah. So since then, Dubois has taken those lessons that he learned from Usyk and has performed admirably, surprisingly good. And he is riding, as you said, that confidence, and that is everything in boxing. Fights are won and lost in the mind long before you step in the ring. But Joshua's in that position too. So here they are, countrymen. They're familiar with each other. They've had long, interesting roads. And I'm not sure we would have found this fight so compelling and so intriguing maybe even a year or two ago. But now, perfect matchup at the right timing. It's going to be a big crowd at Wembley Stadium, very exciting. You can't deny being in front of the home fans who have a vested interest, right? And that IBF belt's available because Usyk decided not to contest it via a mandatory, so he dropped it. Makes it, you know, dangling a little bit of a prize. And that gives the winner a lot of leverage in and among the movement in the heavyweight division, depending on what Usyk decides to do, what some of the other key rising stars decide to do. So it's a great fight. And as many of you have heard, despite all of the criticism we just leveraged against the Saudi General Entertainment Authority, we didn't deny that any fighter who could get a big bag for his, a lot of money for his fight should take it. And fans, you're only going to pay what, $20 in the United States to see this pay-per-view? It's well worth it. Schedule a little time on your Saturday early since it's coming from Great Britain and enjoy it.
Your keys to this fight, Daniel.
The keys is always going to be how mentally either fighter is going to come into it, because they share a common thread to me, which is fighting Usyk and losing to it. Like I mentioned, AJ had a mental breakdown after his second fight with Usyk. Dubois had a low blow, and I know some guys may want to contest it and feel like maybe Usyk should have lost that fight, but it built a confidence boost for it. And Dubois has rebuilt his confidence a lot, especially coming from that loss that he had against Joe Joyce. When we all figured that Joe Joyce would be the one in this position after that fight, lo and behold, unfortunately, Joyce's age catches up to him, and Dubois, the much younger fighter, was able to rebuild. And that's the key to me for this fight, because both of these guys have the size, both of these guys have the power. Joshua has been in this spotlight more than Dubois, so that's counts for experience. But you can never really count out somebody that has the level of confidence that Daniel Dubois has. And that is going to be very interesting because, A, not only does the winner of this fight position themselves to get a rematch with Usyk, there's also the possibility, particularly for Joshua, to get the other big domestic UK fight that people have wanted in the heavyweight division, which is him and Tyson Fury. Now, we know that Usyk and Fury have to have their rematch, which I fully expect Usyk to win. Probably win even better than what he did last time. But that fight between Joshua and Fury, that's still enticing from a domestic standpoint in the UK. Daniel Dubois can have the opportunity to really upset the apple cart. And I think that might be the motivating factor when it comes to this fight.
Turkey Alex Sheik has been a theme in this episode, right? He wants to make Joshua and Fury. So if Joshua wins, to me, doesn't matter what Fury does in the rematch against Usyk. He wants Alex Sheik wants Joshua Fury 2025. And it seems what he's wanted so far, minus the big power players who basically give him a financial middle finger. Other than that, what he wants, he has typically gotten.
Yep. But like I said, Daniel Dubois can really upset that apple cart, which is why I'm going with him as the upset. Because even though Joshua has been in that position over there, Dubois has scratched and clawed his way back from a position where he thought he would never recover from after the Joyce fight. And that type of motivation to me is key when it comes into that fact. And we know AJ can be rocked. We've seen that when the Andrew Ruiz fight. We know he can be rocked. So I see that as that factor. Motivation and Dubois' power as the key to victory. Would not be surprised if young Daniel Dubois punches his ticket to get the big bloody mark one. Sorry, the blood money marks money.
The world-class experience of AJ J versus the stick-to-itiveness in somewhat more battle tested in terms of fighting through the fire, that is Dubois. Who do you think has the advantage?
That's a good question. Like this fight is literally one of those fights where both the fighters are coming in with high confidence. You know, Anthony Joshua, you know, since that mental breakdown, um, in that second Usyk fight, um, I'm actually like I'm actually shocked that like I'm actually seeing that Joshua is back. Well, I feel at least he has that hunger that he did when he was that hunger when he came to Klitschko. Like you can see like it's a more confident and like aggressive style. You know, like you know the Jermaine Franklin, he easily dominated that one. I mean, the Robert Hale anus, that devastating knockout, you know what I mean? And then you have Wallen, and he stops him, and then you have the absolute destruction of in Django or whatever. I forgot what his name, Francis. Did I have that right? The MMA
Whatever.
fight.
The MMA
Yeah,
who got knocked, the you know
yeah.
what out.
I'm not giving him huge credit. I'm not giving him huge credit for that fight, it but him doing that made a huge statement, in boxing, but just the boxing, the little bickering between boxing and MMA, and he just did not play games and went in there and did what you felt that Fury should have probably did, maybe not as quickly, but you would think that Fury would have just absolutely destroyed um, Francis, honestly. So, I mean, this is just two fighters with high confidence coming in. I'm giving the slight edge to AJ just due to the fact of his confidence level. And I think he's actually overcame that mental block that we all were trying to figure out if he was going to ever get out of. Um, but we will see. But I'm giving a slight edge to AJ. Uh, will he knock him out? Will he knock Daniel out? I don't think so. I think it will be a good. I think it will be a good fight. We will see some action. I don't think it will be a huge slug fight, but I think it will be more of a tactical fight, as both fighters have major power. Both fighters, can change the fight with one punch if one of them make a mistake. And I think that AJ, with his chin, his little, I don't want to say glass chin, but he has a a weak chin, so to speak, almost. Um, so he can be rocked. Dubois, well, his heart. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I think he personally got over it, but if he gets rocked, will he fold? Um, Same thing with AJ. I mean, you could say the same question for both guys, honestly and truthfully. But I think I'm giving it slightly to AJ. I think the experience, being at that level and just getting that hunger back that he had, I think gives him a slight edge.
I'm going to go with Dubois here. Excuse me, not Dubois. I'm going with Joshua here. My apologies. Okay, how can I explain this? It kind of piggybacks on what you just said, Jay, in terms of mean streak, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ability to not mess around once he gets in there, particularly once he gets a guy hurt. There's a lot of parallels in my head between AJ and Lennox Lewis, big athletic guys, very, very talented, fight tall, uh, decent jab, good power, but there was always questions about their chin and their toughness. And over time, Lennox Lewis proved himself to be the truth, turned into a Hall of Famer and whatnot. And when Lennox Lewis really sat down and was about his business, 10 toes down. We saw that against Galata in particular. We Michael Grant, right? We saw that he could be a real destructive force. I'm not saying that Dubois is Galata or Michael Grant, but more to the point, when Lewis tended to, and even the second fight against Rahman, right? When Lennox Lewis was really focused and locked in, it was devastating. I think that AJ has that same quality about him. And I think that with the Wallin fight and with the Hellenians fight, with the switching of trainers, I think that AJ, from a skill perspective, is getting better and better. I think from a technical standpoint, AJ is better now than he was when he was unified champion, than he was prior to the second Ruiz fight. Does that mean he would beat a Usyk? Hell no. I think if they fought 10 times, Usyk would beat him 9 or 10 times. But against this caliber of opponent, I think that he's going to hurt him early. And once he get him hurt, he's not going to let him off. If the fight goes rounds, I will go with Dubois, because Dubois over the last few fights has shown himself to have that dog in him. But I think the improved skill set and the improved finishing ability, that's going to be key. So I'm going with Joshua by knockout within 6-7 rounds. And I think we're going to end things on that note. If you're checking this out on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. To hit the like button, excuse me, and also make sure you hit that subscribe button. Subscribe button will help. You'll receive notifications of any future episodes of Pound for Pound Box Report. Just hit that like button to basically help with the overall algorithm. I go to the panel here. We begin with ladies first. Going to end with ladies first. Gail from nyfights.com. For those who want to talk all things boxing, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
My work is at nyfights.com, nyfights.com, free of any foreign investment, at least from the Middle East. So no one affects our editorial opinion at all. And I'm easy to find online, always willing to chat you up and talk boxing.
I'll go to you, Jay, contribute for 3kingsboxing.com. Let me just say right quick, please shout out to everybody from 3kingsboxing.com, your source for pure unadulterated boxing information. Shout out to everybody, the staff and all at 3 Kings, 2K, aka Prodigy of Boxing Talk, the man behind 3 Kings Boxing. Bo, who you heard on this show numerous times, head of media relations, senior writer. Bakar is senior writer. I'm a senior writer for 3kingsboxing.com. You got Jay here. You got Corey. You got Lord Zoe, who are contributors for 3kingsboxing.com. Red, who does a lot of work behind the scenes on the site. I go to you, Jay. For those who want to talk boxing or anything else, let the folks know where they can find you. You're muted, Jay.
Yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, just DM me, JL Davis at Facebook.com. I'm on there. I'll check it. I'll answer whatever questions you guys may have for me or disagree with me on this or whatever the case may be. We can have a little debate. It's all good.
Yeah, Jay, the AKA the jokester of 3 Kings Boxing. But don't let it be your birthday because, man, listen.
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah.
have with 2K last week. But anyway, good dude. Overall, really, really good dude. I go to you, Daniel from 4 Boxing News and the Inscriber. For those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk pro wrestling, for those who want to talk the NBA, especially when it comes to the Miami Heat, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
It's the same everywhere, folks, on Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon. They spot him on anything. I think we got Spill now. Like Rockers99, RAWKZ99. Catch me on there. Say to him your opinion. no problem answering to it unless it's something really really dumb. But definitely catch around because we hopefully picked up at the end of the year, get some more fights going, even with the finances being as they are. But hopefully, except we end this year in the bang, and we see a lot more progress in the future.
Indeed, indeed. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness with me, um, you know what it is on Twitter because I refuse to call it X, Brother JR, at Brother JR76. On the next episode, we will have a recap of the fight for the IBF heavyweight belt between Daniel Dubois and Anthony Joshua. We will recap the undercard bout between Cacace defending the IBF junior lightweight title against former multiple-time featherweight champion Josh Warrington, and we will recap Jaime Munguia's fight against Erik Bazinyan. We will also have a preview what seems to be a pretty busy weekend on the 20 in and around the 28th on Friday. Um, excellent women's bout. Sandy Ryan, who I think is becoming one of the better pound, who's approaching pound for pound status, may already be there when it comes to women's boxing. Uh, she's main eventing a card in New York City on ESPN as she defends the WBO belt against Michaela Mayer. That's an excellent fight. On the undercard of that, Xander Zayas and Shushu Carrington are going to fight. That's going to be in New York City. Also on the 27th, strangely enough, in Fayetteville, Georgia, of all places, the return of Alicia Baumgardner defending the junior lightweight belt against her mandatory challenger, former women's junior lightweight champion Delphine Persoon. That's an intriguing bout. On the 28th, Terry Harper returns to the ring after getting blitzed by Sandy Ryan at 147. Harper is moving back down to 135. She's fighting Rihanna Dixon for Dixon's WBO belts at 135. And yeah. So those are the fights, the main fights of the weekend of the 28th. So again, I want to thank everybody who's checked us out on YouTube, who's ever hit that like button. For Gil of nyfights.com, for Jay, contributor for 3kingsboxing.com, for Daniel of 4Boxing News and the Inscriber. I'm your host, Michael. This has been episode 458 of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. Before we head off, special condolences, rest in power to Titan in Black music culture, Frankie Beverly, Maze of Maze featuring Fake and Beverly fame, passed away last week. And last night, early this morning, news that Tito Jackson of the Jackson 5, he passed away as well. So I want to give that acknowledgement before we head it off. So again, for Gail, for Jay, for Daniel, I'm your host, Michael. This has been episode 458 of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.